Hey, everybody. Hello, good evening. Hope you had a beautiful weekend. And welcome to Nightcap with Neoliberal Tears. I am him, Neoliberal Tears. And today I wanted to go over some of the brouhaha that's going on when it comes to the DNC autopsy report, which they finally released. There was some drama about and some confusion about whether they were going to release it at all or keep it to themselves. And there's some reason to believe that Democrats, as they're known to do, may have tampered a little bit with the conclusions of the report. And there's a reason for why I'm saying this, but let's go over the general reaction to that autopsy, which apparently nobody was happy with, and take it from there.
Well, let me ask you, because what's also notable, Natasha, there are some critical questions it doesn't answer, some areas that it didn't look into, like, for example, how the debate over the war in the Middle East was playing out. What do you know about that, about what's missing?
And that is why this is not going to die down. This is why this is not going to be put to rest by him releasing this today. Even though people have publicly said that they were interviewed by DNC officials and the person Ken Martin put in charge of it, Paul Rivera, about Gaza, and they said that it was a material aspect to why she lost, or it contributed to it. There was zero mention of it in this report, no mention at all. And so that a lot of people are already, up in arms about that. Where is it? Why wasn't it mentioned? So that question is going to continue to dog them as this moves forward.
I think you're absolutely right, Natasha.
Not even one mention in that report that's supposed to sort of analyze why Democrats lost. Not even 192 pages and not even a paragraph that talks about the genocide Democrats started in 2023. Kamala Harris refusing over and over again to support an arms embargo, or even just letting an elected Palestinian American Democrat speak at the DNC. None of that is mentioned in an autopsy. Weird, right? I mean, that's just weird. I mean, and like Natasha was mentioning, is that people who work in the Democratic Party said that they talked to the person who wrote the report, Paul Rivera, who's a strategist, about Gaza and why they think it cost Kamala Harris votes. And it's still not even included, which is weird, right? Weird. So weird. And I'll tell you why it's so weird. I wish I was faster when it comes to sharing things. Okay, so here's an article that was released in February, of this year, that talked about what might be in the report back when it was still under wraps. And it's from Axios. And it says, Scoop, Democrats working on secret report found Gaza cost Harris votes. So what's going on here? What's going on? Top Democratic officials who worked on the party's still secret autopsy of the 2024 election concluded that Kamala Harris lost significant support because of the Biden administration's approach to the genocide in Gaza. Genocide is my words, Axios called it war. Why it matters. The Democratic National Committee's research on what went wrong in 2024 has been under lock and key since party leaders decided last year to hide it from the public, a reflection of how explosively it could resonate within the party and beyond. Progressive and moderate Democrats are particularly divided over Israel, which, with the left more critical of the genocide in Gaza, and many questioning the US's unwavering support for Israel. So they're saying that based on their insight from the report, that Gaza did cost Harris votes. So what's happening here? I'll tell you what I think, without any proof, to be clear. But again, this was from 3 months ago. Let's see if there's another little interesting nugget. The thing about mainstream media articles, it's like, they're not interesting when you read like the propaganda parts, but sometimes they admit things by mistake. Or like now we can look back and sort of see like, how come Gaza isn't mentioned? And here we're told that Gaza was mentioned. So let's see if there's a nugget here that's worth going over. Blah, 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 blah. DNC aides putting together the report on Harris's loss to Donald Trump had a closed-door conversation with a pro-Palestinian group about the Gaza genocide. Activists from the IMEU Policy Project told the DNC that the Biden-Harris administration's support for Israel was a factor in the party's losses because it drained support from some young people and progressives. And honestly, you don't even need a report to know that. If you were like a sentient being in 2024 and you were following the news even like super casually, you know that it costs Harris votes. You know it for a fact. But the report mentioned none of that, except here we're told that it did. So what's happening? Sorry, I still haven't told what my theory was. I'll tell you in a second. And then the IMEU Policy Project is now accusing the DNC of withholding its report, in part because of its findings on Israel. Unreal. So, what do I think happened here? I'll tell you. Here's what I think. And Lexi Alexander on Twitter said it in much better terms than I ever could. So on May 7th, Rahm Emanuel sort of joined the group of people. All of a sudden, about 2 weeks ago, Democratic Party officials, including Josh Shapiro, Zionist governor of Pennsylvania, and Rahm Emanuel, all of a sudden said that the report should be released. These super Israel politicians, right? Super Zionisty. And they said the report should be released. Why would they say that? So Lexi thinks, this makes me think they changed the report and are about to release this new fake one. Okay. That would make a lot of sense. If they fucked with the report because they didn't want to learn any lessons from Gaza, they're not interested in changing their position on Gaza. So removing any mention of Gaza from the report, or how Gaza, or how the genocide that Democrats started cost them votes, that if they wanted to cover their own asses and sort of pretend like, hey, it's not an issue, it wasn't an issue, so we don't have to do anything about it, that would be the way to do it. Yeah. Let's see here. So let's go back to the interview from Meet the Press about the report. And oh, I'm very slow today, guys. My apologies. It's the weekend, I just like had some time to relax, kind of. Let's go back and see what the reaction to the report is.
NBC News senior national politics reporter Natasha Korecki. Natasha, thanks so much for joining us. I know you have been working on this day in and day out, and you've been working your sources today. What more are you learning about what led to the decision to release the report today? Why did it take so long, Natasha?
He finally succumbed under pressure. When I say it's DNC chair Ken Martin. One of the things that he said in a call, and we reported this earlier, one of the things he said in a call to some of his members today was that he could bear it. He could bear all the pressure. But what he started seeing was that potential 2028 contenders were getting asked about the autopsy, and it became bigger than him. And it became such a distraction. And it was doing exactly what he was trying to prevent from doing. So he did release it. We also reported exclusively that Governor Josh Shapiro, Pennsylvania governor, spoke with Ken Martin last week and also pressured him. We also reported previously that Kamala Harris asked him to do it. And as you have reported, Cory Booker also called on him to release this report. So he's been.
So all three Zionist politicians who hate Palestinians to their core, I mean, Cory Booker, Josh Shapiro. Josh Shapiro, like, compared pro-Palestine protesters to the KKK. And Rahm Emanuel and Kamala Harris, so that's 4 already. All of them are all of a sudden really excited in the last 2 weeks to push the DNC to release its report. So here's what I think happened here. They edited out any mention of Gaza because they don't want to move on Gaza. They don't want to even pretend to pander to voters, not even deliver to voters an arms embargo, but literally just do the thing politicians do and fake promise an arms embargo to win over votes, right? I mean, Trump fake promised peace, right? That was his pitch. He didn't deliver because he's a liar. But Democrats, if they don't even want to pander to pro-Palestine voters, it makes complete sense that they would fuck with the report, change the report to suit their own desired conclusions. My opinion. This is all allegedly. Democrats don't even think about suing me.
Under enormous amount of pressure to release this report.
Yeah, that is a mountain of pressure that you lay out there, Natasha. So you've been looking into this report throughout the day. What are the biggest takeaways here from your perspective?
Well, there are many takeaways. One of them is they started too late with the negative advertising on Trump. They didn't land.
This is what Democrats are going to go to their grave screaming about. Is like, and they do this every time they lose. They did it when Hillary lost. Our only problem is messaging. We need to just spend more money on ads. We need to go on the offensive in the radio, on TV. We have to buy more ads. And guess who benefits from all of that? Democratic operatives, strategists, who make a shit ton of money. A shit ton of money. Kamala raised $1 billion. Kamala raised more money than Trump. And all that money was spent on what? On fucking salaries for fucking consultants who are bad at their job. But they don't care. They probably bought a third house. You know? They don't care if they lose, as long as they get those contracts. Anywho.
The negative ads were not landing the way they did, but they took too long. That was one of them. There was not enough messaging coordination between the outside PAC future.
Our only problem is messaging, guys. That's our only fucking problem. It's not the dog shit policies and the genocide we started. It's all just messaging. If we just change the way, if we just switch out words, if we just play around with the words, that's what the peasants. That's good enough for the peasants, for sure. It's really insulting if you think about it. I mean, they really think voters are idiots. Maybe it's because they're idiots, or maybe it's because they don't even want to pretend to pander to vote. I mean, politics is about persuasion, and there's nothing less persuasive than everything I'm hearing right now.
Forward and the actual campaign. One of the biggest things that this underscored was Kamala Harris and how the White House, they faulted the White House with Biden White House with how they had prepared Kamala Harris, which was to say they did not prepare her. And I'm going to read this part from the report. The White House did not position or prepare the vice president. Had the White House explored and evaluated ways to leverage Kamala Harris earlier in the administration, perhaps it would have improved the president's standing, and it could certainly have helped prepare her to lead the ticket. So all of those things played into this.
Well, let me ask you, because what's also notable, Natasha, there are some critical questions it doesn't answer, some areas that it didn't look into, like, for example, how the debate over the war in the Middle East was playing out. What do you know about that, about what's missing?
And that is why this is not going to die down. This is why this is not going to be put to rest by him releasing this today. Even though people have publicly said that they were interviewed by DNC officials and the person Ken Martin put in charge of it, Paul Rivera, about Gaza, and they said that it was a material aspect to why she lost, or it contributed to it. There was zero mention of it in this report. No.
So people who work for the Democratic Party were interviewed by the person writing this report, and they told that person that, according to their lived experience, I hate using those terms, but maybe I'm going to take it back and co-opt it, whatever, do what Democrats do. According to their lived experience working on the campaign, they do believe that Gaza cost Harris votes, which is obvious if you have even a little bit of a brain, not too much of a brain, but a little bit. So either Paul Rivera didn't even mention it in the 192 pages, didn't even include it, or he did include it in February, because we know from the leak to Axios that yes, Gaza did cost Harris votes, that the report actually said that. And then after the fact, Ken Martin decided to remove any mention of Gaza because that's too distracting to mention in the autopsy. Then you have a media cycle of people talking about Gaza costing Democrats the election, the genocide costing Democrats the election. And if that's the message, and all of a sudden that gets reported, then Democrats have to pretend to offer something different on Gaza than they're willing to offer. So maybe they removed every single mention of Gaza, even though we are told that it cost Harris votes by people who work within the Democratic Party. Unbelievable. Unbelievable levels of... This is what totalitarian, authoritarian governments do. They manufacture the reports they want to see. They sort of write the conclusion in advance, or they just take out the parts they don't like. Anthony Blinken did it when the State Department was supposed to issue a report about whether Israel was complying with the terms of, U.S. laws, or when it comes to receiving weapons from the United States, whether they were following the law. Someone who worked at the State Department said, no, they were violating American laws, the Leahy laws. And Anthony Blinken changed the report, fucked with the report. That person had to resign from the State Department. So this is not new. Like fucking with reports, changing the conclusions to suit their own needs. Democrats have done that before.
No mention at all. And so that a lot of people are already, up in arms about that. Where is it? Why wasn't it mentioned? So that question is going to continue to dog them as this moves forward.
I think you're absolutely right, Natasha Karecki. Thanks for bringing us your exclusive reporting. We really appreciate it. Joining me now is our panel, Dan Merrick, co-author of The Early Brief for The Washington Post, Ashley Etienne, former communications director for Vice President Harris and a Meet the Press contributor, and Sarah Chamberlain, president and CEO of the Republican Main Street Partnership. Boy, is there a lot to unpack today, Dan. We have to start with this DNC report.
Sorry, this guy has nothing interesting to say, so I'm just going to try to skip him. Save you time. Save you time. He is, look at that face. That's not a face of someone saying something meaningful. Okay. But there's another contributor that I thought made some interesting points. When are you going to be done talking, Dan? I don't want to listen to you. Wow, he keeps going. Okay, but there we go.
This report to be released. So your reaction to it being released today, and for you, what are the biggest takeaways?
Well, for me, my first reaction is this is a complete and total failure on the part of Ken Martin. He had a choice. Ken Martin chose to release what I've been told is a draft document with critiques to a draft document.
Oh, so now we're hearing from someone who works with the Democrats in the state party infrastructure that this is not the actual report. This is a draft. Oh, interesting. So what happened? I'm sure Paul Rivera didn't just submit a draft. He submitted a full autopsy. But Ken Martin chose to only publish the draft instead of the full report. Interesting.
And part of the issue there is he released it to protect his own hide. You know, that's the part I find most insulting. He could have released a forward-looking document that really dug into the biggest, the three-alarm fire, as I call it, that the Democratic Party is facing. It's facing a failing infrastructure, an identity crisis, and bleeding support among its base vote voters. He could have put some recommendations forward. Rather, what he did was he put out a document to throw the writers of the report under the bus. He made this about himself when democracy is under attack right now. And so if you ask me, he owes people like me an explanation. The people like me who've been the backbone of this political party for generations now. 600,000 Black women are out of a job. We're at 8.5% unemployment. 400 years of Black political progress has been undermined in the past 2 weeks with the gutting of the VRA. Ken Martin owes Black people an explanation as to why he's been sitting on this document and what happened to all the money. That is the biggest takeaway. There is no unpacking of how the money was spent, how it was strategically spent, whether it was spent to advance innovation, innovative strategies to win black voters and brown voters. I mean, it's really, again, a failure of leadership on the part of Ken Martin.
Good points. What happened to all the fucking money? $1 billion, and they're not even reassessing how to spend money? The DNC apparently is having a real hard time fundraising money for themselves because no one trusts Democrats on anything, and they shouldn't. But there are 192 pages, and it doesn't talk about Gaza, and it doesn't talk about where the money fucking went. I'll tell you where it went. It went to the same fucking consultants that have been on a loop, getting repeated contracts with the Democratic Party for the last 40 fucking years. The same fucking people doing the same fucking thing. If you donated to Democrats because they sent you an email saying, can you rush $5 right now? You wasted your money, and it went right back into the coffers of rich pieces of shit consultants who were paid and didn't even care if Democrats were going to win because they were paid. They don't care if Democrats actually win or not. Why would they? They don't get a bonus if, Kamala wins or loses. Who cares? As long as they get fucking paid. I did a monologue. It's on my YouTube channel if you want to check it out. And the title is Democrats Don't Mind Losing. They get paid anyway. And it sort of touches on the fact that the Democratic Party isn't a real political party in the sense that its objectives. A real political party would have objectives, right? That it needs to meet, including winning elections. And a lot of the decisions by the Democratic Party would make a lot more sense to you if you sort of realize and understand and fully internalize that the Democratic Party is first and foremost a corporation. And the duties of that corporation are not to win electoral votes, but to make money. Make money. And in that sense, Kamala Harris was great for the corporation that is the Democratic Party, because she raised a ton of money, okay, from wealthy individuals, from people of lower socioeconomic status. People donated to the Kamala Harris campaign. She raised more money than Trump, a lot more money than Trump. And at the end of the day, that's why at the end of the day, Democrats don't really care if they win. They care how much money you raise, how much money comes in, you know? So the DNC had a problem. They probably had a report that said Gaza cost Harris and Democrats votes. That's probably what the final version of the report said. I can't imagine it not, unless that person writing it was a real Zionist or just someone ideologically motivated versus, someone objectively assessing what happened, what went wrong. But Democrats are already struggling to fundraise. So they decided to cover their asses and make a report that they can live with. And that's a report that doesn't mention Gaza, because if they bring up Gaza again, those voters who didn't vote for Democrats in 2024, maybe they voted for Biden in 2020, but they stayed home in 2024, they're going to remember all over again how Democrats fucked them over and how they don't deserve anyone's support. It's the Democratic Party brand is already so toxic. They want to forget that they started the genocide. They just want to be anti-Trump. They want to put it all on Trump. Look, Trump is taking us to war with Iran. Trump is bombing Lebanon. Trump is doing all these things. Vote for us. We are the opposition. We're the opposite. They think just being not Trump, people will forget all about the genocide and come running back. They're so fucking stupid. And I'll say my prediction again because I'm more and more convinced of this. But I've been feeling for a while. This is what's happened, right? This is very clear. Democrats think they're going to win the midterms because, historically speaking, the opposition party always wins the midterms. Okay, like no matter who's in power. Like when Trump was in power got elected in 2016. In 2018, Democrats, the opposition, took back the House. Yeah, in 2020, Biden won. Democrats won the Senate, the House, the presidency. 2022, who won the House in the midterms? The opposition party, which in this case was the Republicans. So they think 2026, the midterms, they're going to win based on historical precedent and nothing else. They're going to win. They're going to win the House, to be clear. Trump is still going to be president. They think they're going to win the House. I don't think anyone expects them to win the Senate. I think they're going to buck history and lose the House, which would be unprecedented for the opposition party. And honestly, I think they deserve to lose. But what do I know? I'm a nobody. I think they deserve to lose. They're not getting my fucking vote. Sorry, let's go back to Ashley. She makes some excellent points.
Let me follow up with you quickly because Dan Pfeiffer, former Obama advisor, also outraged by Ken Martin, posting on social media, it's hard to imagine anyone handling anything worse than Ken Martin handled the DNC autopsy. It was a disaster of his own making, and it's sufficient evidence that he is not the right person to lead the DNC at this time. Are you saying you agree with Dan Pfeiffer?
No, I agree with that. I mean, again,
so he should go. Ken Martin should go.
I think he should. I mean, but before he leaves, I think we need an explanation as to what happened to the money, because everything flows from the money. There, as I said on Meet the Press, there's speculation that people were making decisions to line their pockets and not win this election. That is deplorable.
Sarah, let me read you.
Did you hear what she said? So important that people were paid to just pump ads, pay themselves, and nobody really cared if Kamala was actually winning votes. Which again, if you look at it from the perspective of a corporation, they don't give a shit about winning votes. They just care about raising money. And Kamala was doing a great job raising money. That's all that matters to a corporation, which is what the Democratic Party is. Let's hear more from Ashley because she makes such good points, but I want to skip over the white guy because he does not make good
Part
points.
of this report, it says focus.
Yeah, no, it's, yeah, let's see. Okay, that lady is a Republican strategist. No offense. Don't really mind what she has to say. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I hope you had a beautiful weekend. Or, as good as could be considering the circumstances. And the fact the world is falling apart. Okay, please be done speaking. Okay, here we go.
Day lives and how they're running their campaigns. That probably includes Harris.
But the reality is, just to clarify a couple of things, the reason why it matters to state level parties is because, again, if we made decisions, if strategic decisions were made to put a lot of money on television and not invest in building the infrastructure of the state parties, that affects those local races. There's a lot in this document that is not unpacked. And that's why my issue is it's not what's in it, because none of it that's in it is groundbreaking. It's what's not included. The issue of Gaza, which we're seeing affect all of these races all over the country, how the money was spent with strategic decisions.
Did you see how Kristen Welker said yes, like when she mentioned Gaza? Hold on. Okay, Kristen, okay. Let's see.
Of it that's in it is groundbreaking. It's what's not included. The issue of Gaza, which we're seeing affect all of these races all
Did you hear that? Yes. Yes. I agree. Yes.
over the country,
100%.
how the money was spent with strategic decisions. We're getting our butts kicked by Republicans on the ground. They're building new modern information ecosystems that we've not even started to invest in. I've been in the party 25 years, and the same 5 to 8 people have been making all the strategic decisions and all the money. So that.
Did you hear that? I've been in the party 25 years, and the same 5 to 8 people are making all the strategic decisions for 25 years, and all of the decisions about money. Ashley, I know you worked for Kamala, so I don't really like that about your history, but I appreciate you dropping this. It's good to hear some honesty in mainstream media. It's so rare.
Butts kicked by Republicans on the ground. They're building new modern information ecosystems that we've not even started to invest in. I've been in the party 25 years, and the same 5 to 8 people have been making all the strategic decisions and all the money. So that's really the question, is how the money was spent.
You hear that? At this point, paying Democrats in any shape or form, Act Blue, all donations go, a percentage of all donations you give to candidates go to the DNC. I wouldn't, it's not even, I think it's obvious. I wouldn't even spit in their direction if they asked me for money. I think most people are in that position. So I'm not saying anything groundbreaking, but the same 5 to 8 people have been making all the decisions for 2 decades. That makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. This is what we're dealing with.
When Obama was president, you were way ahead of us with the technology, and we've caught up and actually passed on.
My point is more that some of these campaigns.
We don't care what your point is, mister. We do not care. I couldn't care less. So it seems pretty obvious to anybody under the sun that Gaza had to be was a factor in losing the election. And it's not just Ashley, who worked for Kamala Harris. Oops, sorry guys, my bad. It's the DNC trying to silence me. Just kidding, it's not, it's me. I'm still learning the ropes when it comes to, switching screens and all that fun stuff. So here's someone who coordinated digital strategy for Kamala Harris, and here's what he said, right, from his lived experience. I coordinated digital strategy for Kamala Harris across every single battleground state. Guess which issue got us more backlash and demobilization from our base than any other? than any other issue. Think of the economy, think immigration, healthcare. This is the issue that gave them more backlash and demobilization from their base than any other. The genocide in Gaza that AIPAC actively aids and abets. So he coordinated digital strategy in all 7 swing states. How come his analysis didn't make it into the 192-page draft that they decided to release? I think the Gaza analysis did make it into the report. It's just we're not seeing the real report. We're seeing a draft. Because look, everybody agrees. Even Kristen Welker was like, yes, Gaza, of course, anybody with half a brain knows that Gaza cost Harris votes. So, and this is a tweet that I saw back in April before the report was released, but I thought it was really insightful, from someone on Twitter, where not always insightful takes, but most of the time, if you look hard enough, you'll find insightful things there. This is from Ibarra11, and he says, and they said it back in April, DNC won't release their 2024 autopsy report because it reveals they lost for things they intend to keep doing. So that would make a lot of sense. If the Democrats had no interest in actually addressing the genocide in Gaza, or if they wanted to sweep it under the rug, it makes a lot of sense why they either wouldn't release the report or tamper with the report. Because they have no interest in changing course. They have no interest in offering people who are pro-Palestine or against genocide, they have no interest in actually correcting course on this. And if they had brought it up in the report, or if it was brought up in the report and it was part of the conclusion that Gaza cost Harris votes, as I said, then they would have to address it and actually offer something else. And that would alienate Zionists, like Josh Shapiro, like Rahm Emanuel, like Kamala Harris. So of course, Democrats would prefer to not have to offer anything different. Allegedly. So I think it's pretty obvious, but I just think the fuckery of fucking Democrats, I mean, it's really shocking. I mean, I'm not surprised. Never be surprised by how much fuckery Democrats are willing to commit in the interest of covering their asses. The truth comes at to them, the truth does not matter, has never mattered. And I think it's sad because, I mean, at the end of the day, not having an honest analysis or an autopsy about what really happened, or hiding the real report and only releasing a draft, doesn't help them win, which they pretend to care about. If they were actually interested in learning, I mean, imagine if you take a test. I hate analogies like this, but imagine for a second that if you take a test and you get a grade, and the grade is F, fail, but you're not told what you did wrong, or the teacher decides to hide from you the real reason for why you got an F or what you did wrong, or just not tell you at all what you did wrong, you're not going to be able to improve when you take the test again. That's why I genuinely believe Democrats are going to lose. And I know some idiot Democratic strategist. This is why I'm so glad nobody watches my streams, because if even 20 people watched my streams, you would have already seen Democratic operatives in the chat telling me I'm sabotaging Democrats by talking like this, blah, blah, blah. So I'm really glad nobody watches this. I can just be as honest as possible and say what I really believe, which is that Democrats are gonna lose again the House this year. And then maybe we'll get a real autopsy. But again, just to prove, I mean, just to sort of put a human face because I think when we speak in these political terms about costing votes and all that stuff, we can sort of forget that voters are real people with a mind of their own, with thoughts, with feelings, people who care, right? We saw the uncommitted movement organizing in ways we have never seen before, like, getting 100,000 people in Michigan to vote uncommitted against Joe Biden when he was running for re-election. That was unprecedented. A huge achievement. And Democrats thought, we're still going to win Michigan. It's not going to be a problem. So here's a family from Michigan who voted for Biden in 2020 and told NBC News that back in 2024 that they would not vote for Democrats or Biden when he was still running for re-election, that they would not vote for Democrats again, and that they feel betrayed and that they regret their votes. Their voices should have been in the autopsy. Maybe they were. But let's listen to their story and really take in the kind of mess Democrats are finding themselves in with voters like me and like them.
Mohammed Abu Hussein is a teenager in Gaza and on the minds of Mike and Nadia Ayub.
He's become a son to me. We love him. We care about him.
A few years ago, the couple hosted Mohammed at their home in Dearborn, Michigan, where he received a prosthetic leg. Now they say he lives in a refugee camp, the site of recent airstrikes.
It's very tough. I've broken down at times looking at those pictures.
Since the war broke out, they've been furious with the U.S.'s response and want a ceasefire.
Do you vote for Biden in 2020?
Yes.
Do you regret that?
I do.
You see, so the reporter asks them, did you vote for Biden in 2020? They said yes. Do you regret it? And they say they do.
Yeah, he hasn't stepped up for the Palestinians.
Here in Dearborn, Arab Americans make up more than half the population. Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib, who represents the area, is accusing President Biden of supporting genocide in Gaza.
We will remember in 2024.
I think Biden and just about every American politician has blood on their hands.
In 2020, Biden won Michigan by just 154,000 votes. With more than 300,000 Arab Americans in the state, the voting bloc could make a critical difference in 2024.
I'd be hard-pressed to find a single member of my community right now today that would vote for Biden.
A new poll out.
A single member of his community. This is why I think Democrats aren't just incompetent, they aren't just inept, they aren't just stubborn. I believe, genuinely, based on everything I'm showing you and everything I've seen, the Democrats knew they were going to lose 2024. They knew they were going to lose, even with Kamala. They just didn't care about losing. If they cared about losing, they would have offered pro-Palestine voters, even if just on paper, even if it's just performative promises, which to be clear, I don't support offering people fake promises, right? That's not what I'm advocating for. But I'm saying if they actually wanted to win, they would have at least pretended, or Kamala would have at least pretended to support an arms embargo. Then she would have gotten elected, and then she would have said, actually, I'm doing what every president does, and I'm saying that I changed my mind. Guess what? I don't support an arms embargo anymore. Thank you for getting me elected. Beautiful. Thank you very much. I mean, Biden promised the public option. Biden promised a $15 minimum wage. Biden promised all kinds of shit that he didn't fulfill. The Democrats wouldn't even give pro-Palestine voters fake promises. It's literally like they said, we don't care if we lose. We actually don't care. I think they knew they were going to lose, and they just didn't want to win. Because they want the people who work within the party structure, especially if you're already elected, like if you're elected to the House or the Senate, and you're a Democrat, you don't care if you're in the minority. If anything, it means you have less work to do. There's a 95% re-election rate for people who are in the House or the Senate. 95% re-election rate. Cory Booker is up for re-election this year, first time in 6 years. Nobody's bringing up that he has a primary challenger. Not even a single independent, quote-unquote, media outlet is talking about the fact that there's a primary in New Jersey for Cory Booker. No one's even trying. And the next opportunity to primary out Cory Booker would be in 6 years. The Democratic Party is not changing. I hope that people are so aware of this. But I mean, they don't even promise to change because they think they don't need to. They think voters like this family from Michigan don't deserve even a promise of something different or better. It's like it's genuinely like they don't want to win or they don't want votes. And the only way that would make sense is if you look at the Democratic Party as a corporation that makes money and doesn't exist to win. It exists to fundraise. And if you want to fundraise from very rich people, Zionists, boomers, older people, they don't want to hear you offer anything different on Palestine. They're going to stop writing checks if you do that.
This week shows former President Trump, the GOP frontrunner, beating President Biden in Michigan.
People are very angered and they feel betrayed by the Biden administration. They told us we had to save America from Donald Trump, and now we feel like we have to save Palestine from Joe Biden.
Amr Zar is an activist who says he begrudgingly backed Biden in 2020.
Amr Zar is a great activist. I believe he's from Dearborn, although I could be wrong on that. He's a stand-up comedian as well, and a professor of law. And you should follow him on Twitter or in TikTok, any social media you have. He's brilliant. And I really always take into account his analysis. And very smart person, very in tune with what voters, with who voters are and what they're looking for.
As things stand right now, I'm voting third party, but I wouldn't be surprised if you see a lot of people turn to Trump as well. It's not about Trump. It's about a protest. It's about a vote to spite the Democratic Party.
A White House official tells me there's been a concerted outreach to Arab American leaders here in the U.S. The Biden administration has been calling for humanitarian pauses in Gaza, but says a full ceasefire would only help Hamas.
They wouldn't even commit to a ceasefire. Remember that? And then they tried to co-opt and change the definition of a ceasefire. Democrats deserve to lose 2024. And until they offer pro-Palestine voters something worth voting for, they'll deserve to lose every single election moving forward. Just my opinion. Allegedly. It's allegedly my opinion. Anywho, that was everything I had to share tonight. I'm so grateful for those of you who joined me later, like, you know, after I post the streams. I'm still shocked that anybody listens to this. I sort of conceived of this as like a vending sessions, but I'm really grateful that some of you do check it out. I hope it's something worth I hope that I'm making thoughtful content for you to listen to when maybe you're cleaning or moving around, or, you know, you're playing Bluetooth in your car and you need something to listen to that isn't horribly depressing, and that hopefully gives you something to think about. I don't know. Thank you for being here. Thank you with me, with Neoliberal Tears. And I'll see you tomorrow. If you have any ideas for clips I should react to that have to do with Palestine or the one-state solution, I would love for you to leave it in the comments. Thank you again. And I'll see you tomorrow. And as always, you know what I'm going to say. You know what I'm going to say. From the river